Hi, my name is Scott. I'm with the team at Space and Time, and we're super excited to be here and talk about Dreamspace, an AI studio for working with data. Dreamspace itself is all about bringing AI app generation from months to minutes, but specific to individual industries. It's about building an AI studio experience that knows about your business's, your vertical, your industry, your business's tools, and what's available. There's so many AI studios out there right now, so many teams that are doing a great job building kind of no code app development studios from idea to app in minutes, right? Where you describe what your app is and what it does, and then you watch your app getting generated. But we see a future where that gets very industry specific for the enterprise, and we want to accelerate that future. In 2023 and 2024, there was a lot of buzz, a lot of clamor around businesses that were adding chatbots or really AI agents to their front end to make it easier for their users to interact with their business and their tools. Funny anecdotes about car dealerships adding a chatbot for negotiating your car's price. But going into 2025, it's getting so easy now to generate entire apps and generate entire front ends that we no longer need to focus our efforts on just creating a chatbot that has context about your business and writing prompts or writing instructions for the AI agents that power that chatbot. Rather, we can just quickly generate new front ends for your business, generate new AI apps or apps that are generated with AI, as the kids are calling them, vibe coded or vibe coding apps quickly. Businesses can generate entire apps for internal or for customer use, right? They can build internal tools that their own employees are leveraging. And I want to talk about how that happens quickly, how we enable that, and how we make that useful to the business, and why industries are moving to these industry-specific AI app studios. So think about generating new front ends that add to the customer experience, essentially just building new pages of your website, building new pages of your app, and adding those features, those pages, those capabilities quickly, versus an AI studio or a user experience where the front end is actually generated for you based on what you're trying to accomplish. Two very different things. On one hand, we have devs or semi-technical creators that are using an AI studio to generate new content and new features, new pages, and add it to their website, add it to their web app, add it to the customer experience. On the other hand, the AI studio itself is generating new user experiences for employees to leverage, internal users to boost their productivity. Think about an example of, an architecture studio that's generating new buttons and new front ends for the architects to leverage based on what they're trying to accomplish. Both of those require a chatbot and context about your business, assets from your business. That could include your business's images, pictures, documents, of course, data, your business's database. We're going to go into extreme detail about that. If you're building a game, maybe that includes your business's 3D models, characters, weapons, the world that you're building in, bringing that context to the AI studio. And whether you're building an internal tool to make game developers more productive, or you're actually building features for the game, you would have a chatbot for vibe coding, for describing what you want, and you need to see and visualize your industry specific or your business's tools and assets. Those tools are things that your game can do, like your API calls, your backend, your Azure PlayFab integrations. But also, like I said, your video game's assets, being able to see the models, drag them into the studio. Think about an AI studio for supply chain. We're not necessarily building a consumer or customer facing app. So we don't need to add new pages to a web app quickly, but we need a front end that has, or a chat bot that has context about the supply chain itself. And you might want to visualize items moving through the supply chain. That requires more than just a chatbot. That requires bringing context about their business to an AI-generated front end that can help visualize items across the supply chain and show where items are getting roadblocked. On the finance side, think about a trading terminal that's AI. We call them that has intents that are AI driven. What I intend to place a limit order on this market. You could talk about, hey, find me the best market for Tesla stock right this moment, etc. Now, that would combine a chatbot with an AI driven or AI generated front end that aggregates information about the assets that you want to purchase or the assets that you're describing. The future of financial applications will have a front end that's dynamic, but those tools could be for internal traders inside of a trading desk, inside of a hedge fund or a financial institution, or for customers externally, brokerage offering these tools for their end user. The key is AI specific app generators. They need to have context on the specific tools available. A financial institution has its own golden record of assets and trades, its own database with its own rules and its own logic, its own trading desk risk management system with specific policies and guardrails around how traders can trade. And the AI studio with which they make their trades needs to have that context. I'll go through one last example here before we wrap. Think about a legal studio where we're bringing legal documents into the context of the chatbot. The front end might be generated to simulate a court situation, but the context brought into the chatbot or into the window is legal documents that the firm has already cataloged. All we're trying to do is we're trying to connect an industry-specific, heavy-duty backend, your business's data and your business's REST API tools, with an AI agent front end that's more than just a chatbot. It visualizes the context about your industry that's going to be important. We're connecting an AI agent to your business's backend APIs and your databases, and that requires giving the agent context about how to interact with your business and use its tools. And that requires a lot of writing. To be honest, it's pages and pages of prompts or instructions written by semi-technical folks from your business who understand your business's APIs. If you're building, like I said, a fun example of construction software, architecture software, you have a lot of very specific context about how houses can be built. In our case, we wrote about 10 pages worth of detailed instructions on how to use the database, where our data came from, the architecture of the database, and what kinds of reads and writes can occur from a front-end app so that people can build data-driven apps on top of our database very quickly and populate charts and data dashboards. What is your business's specific context? What are the prompts and instructions that you need to write for your business? All right. There's been a lot of buzz around MCP. It was just a popular standard for a registry of two-way connections between data sources and chatbots. Essentially, the goal of MCP, Model Context Protocol, was to set standards or create a single directory for how businesses provide those prompts, those instructions for AI agent to call their tools, to use their APIs. It's a way for your agent or your chatbot to have kind of like a single directory of all these different sets of businesses and their tools with human readable instructions on how to call those tools. It just links your business's REST APIs, or a bunch of business. It's a directory that links all these different businesses' REST APIs to human readable or AI agent readable instructions in your chatbot. So now your AI agent, your chatbot knows how to, send texts with Twilio, or, send tweets with the X API, or, your agent chatbot now knows how to schedule items on your calendar with the Google Calendar MCP connection. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I just want to throw this in as a side note, as context, to say we're not the only people thinking about this. A lot of teams are thinking about standardizing how instructions are provided to an AI agent to show it how to use your business's tools. Again, 2023 and 2024 was an era of building chatbots and AI agents as one-offs for your business. Now we're moving to an era of generated front ends, a fully generated front end, not just a chatbot with generated text, but a fully generated front end that has context about your business and knows how to use your business's tools. That means we get to introduce Dreamspace. Dreamspace is an AI studio that lets you generate your app's UI, add industry-specific auth and paywalls, and then connect our database, a very specific database, particularly for blockchain data. We built this completely on top of Azure tools like Microsoft's AutoGen, OpenAI APIs on Azure, Kubernetes, Key Vault, Fabric OneLake, and we've been incredibly impressed by both the performance and the offering from Microsoft in this context. Dreamspace is an AI studio that's just one example of an industry-specific AI studio sitting in front of a very powerful backend with context about how to use that backend. And I'll show you in just a moment what that looks like. So I won't go through a full demo right now on this recording just for brevity, but let's get into it. So I've just opened up my chatbot with context about the database for this app that I'm building. In this case, I'm building an app for finding dog walkers to help me walk my dog. The backend is a full database that knows the schema of this dog walking app, knows what tables are available, what data visualizations and charts can be dragged in, and I can talk to my chatbot about what I need. So I could say, hey, make sure this submits to the grooming sessions table. And simultaneously, I can make quick changes to the design of my app by just dragging in, let's see, new gradients. And with that, I have essentially a whole new theme for my mini app. And I can change other theme kind of concepts around it. But most importantly, the chatbot and the agent studio has context of my dog walking business and the database behind it, etc.